Red light is on. What is up, everybody? Aaron the dog back with another breakdown. I'm gonna add the banner right now because I didn't. We are back with 267, Bellator 267. That is Lima versus MVP 2 goes down from London, England this Saturday, 12 o'clock Eastern time, so 5 o'clock your time for this Bellator card. I believe it starts. So. First of all, Lewis of Norton MMA, how you doing today?
Yeah, good man. Finally have a card in London.
Yeah, it is a card. Like a little bit hit or miss, I think is what you described it as when we were talking about it a little bit beforehand.
Yeah, a little hit and miss, but there's some absolute bangers on this card, especially people who came from Cage Warriors, run out of their contract, and haven't gone into the UFC. So they're gonna surprise some people.
Yeah. So a little bit different setup here again. From Thursday, I was in Nebraska in a Hilton hotel. On this, what is it, Wednesday, I am broadcasting live from my home in Michigan, which doesn't mean anything to you, but yeah, back home in my childhood basement at my standing desk in my basement, dogs barking upstairs still. So still got that. We do have odds for this Bellator, so we got a breakdown to do. 13 fights on this card. There won't be timestamps this week because I don't have any way of writing them down, and I'm traveling and spending time with family. So apologies for missing the Contenders series. I won't be missing very many more events, hopefully, but did miss the Contenders series and LFA, so I'm slacking here. So, 13-fight Bellator card. We'll be back with the UFC tomorrow with Brian Battle and Bunny as well. But, let's go ahead and jump on into this Bellator breakdown here. I think for the most part, we'll have some things to say about these fights. Honestly, I don't like to usually be this MMA person, but I want to have a lot to say about the three women's matchups on this card, I'll be honest, including the co-main event, which is a squash match for Leah McCourt against Jessica Borga, who's coming off of a loss. And in the co-main event, it's just to get Leah McCourt one more win before they give her someone worth testing her against, I guess. Janae Harding was a good test, but this, I don't know. I don't really see the point. So, but besides that, I think it's a pretty good card. You mentioned prospects, also got quite a few kind of veterans as well on this card as well, both Cage Warriors and Bellator veterans. So, yeah, let's go ahead and jump in here. And, we could definitely have an interesting main event, too. Once again, very close main event between MVP and Lima. But we jump in. According to Tapology, I would not be surprised if this is not the opener by the time, but on Tapology right now, that's what I'm going by. Miz, what's good, sir? Good to see you, man. Back at home in Michigan, man, just doing a Bellator breakdown here. But this is the opener according to Tapology. Khurshid Kakhurov taking on Jair Jr., Brazil versus Tajikistan. Still can't say that correctly, but a few fighters have been fighting out there lately. So SBG Ireland versus King Shark MMA. I'll be breaking down the Brazilian Jair first 6-2 for JJ. King Shark MMA, 30 years old, 5'10", 73-inch reach, currently on a 3-fight win streak. Like a lot of Brazilians, has not fought since December of 2019. He fought with Glory of Heroes. Have no idea what that is. Don't know how he won, and he faced a guy who doesn't have a record or even a page I can click on Tapology. So that's how good that opponent was. Shabati Shanati. If you're watching, type in the chat. Otherwise, I've never heard of Glory Heroes. Before that, took on 9-9 Xiaobin Yan submission. Then back with Glory with Sung Shuai. Lost to an 0-2 Alan Cerverio. Lost to a 1-2 Igor Suarez. And the other guys he beat don't have records. Couldn't find an ounce of tape on him. So my research is the Tapology page for Jair Jr. What's up, Thamaris? Good to see you. Speaking of Brazil, if you're familiar with Jair Jr., Thamaris, tell us, because I know you're from Brazil, so maybe you've heard or seen Glory of Heroes. Have you heard of this organization? Because I couldn't find much on him. Brings us over to Killer Krakorov. 7-0, 29 years old, 5'8", 70-inch reach. Going to have a slight reach disadvantage. 6-fight win streak, although he's 7-0. So I'm not sure how he has a 6-fight win streak when he's 7-0. Should be a 7-fight win streak, but I'm not sure what's going on with Tapology. All finishes for this guy in his career, other than one decision against a 3-0 opponent in Guy da Silva in his second fight. Stayed pretty active. 3 fights in 2018, fight in 2019, 2020, and he has fought in 2021 where he got a third-round knockout over an opponent with 13 fights, 8-5. He's beat a couple undefeated guys, 5-0 and 3-0 prior. This has to be Krakorov, in my opinion, making his Bellator debut. Tajikistan, which I can't say yet, but seems to have a lot of good MMA talent. We had Gafarov a couple weeks ago come up short on the Contenders series, but 16-3 opponent. I think we've had a couple other guys recently. I know I've been breaking down. And, I mean, Krakorov, it's hard to not pick against the guy who has tape and experience against guys with actual fights in a organization I've actually heard of. So I think Krakorov seems to be set up here with a smaller Brazilian that he's going to knock out. That's my assumption. And I think that's the price we're going to have to put on him too.
Yeah, it just seems like a feeder for Karkarov, doesn't it? The other guy,
really
again, he's losing to people who haven't won a fight before, who have multiple losses. This guy just seems on paper, and again, there's so little tape for these guys, you can't find it unless you're from that place or you've got it on your camera phone. So
yeah,
it basically is he's finishing everybody he's fighting. He looks like what Bellator wanted to sign, and they needed an opponent who would say yes because they want to move out of a bad organization. Probably, you'd have to.
Yeah, you just see the name Krakorov.
Yeah,
you just see the name Krakorov, and it looks like a Bellator name that's going to dominate for a while. Maybe I'm just seeing Koreshkov, and I'm just like, therefore it's the same thing. But like, I just see Krakorov winning a lot in Bellator for a long time, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like he looks good from what I've seen, which is only like 1 or 2 fights, but third round knockouts are always good to see on a record.
Especially early
Jair
on
losing. And Jair losing to an 0-2 guy and a 1-2 guy, and his wins being over guys I can't even click on Tapology. Like, it doesn't happen often. You come across a name on Tapology where it won't at least give you the Chuck Norris double guns picture. I couldn't even get that for Jair's last opponent. One thing I will say is maybe, because the price here, it's minus 550 on Krakorov, 5.5 to 1 favorite, plus 380 on Jair. You might as well wait until weigh-ins or just let this one go, because you've got both these guys making their Bellator debuts. And we've also seen on the Contender Series, some of these guys who Brazilians particularly have been off for a couple of years, they're coming back looking like they've been in a Brazilian shit house, just building muscles, like a muscles on muscles. So I don't know, a little bit of sauce here and there. I'm not sure what's going on in Brazil, but, it's just a little bit of a question. I'll kind of be bringing up in another fight with Benjamin Bratter how Corona kind of pandemic requirements have affected Swedish or Switzerland MMA and like other MMAs. Brazil, while they didn't have fights, it seems the gyms were still going the entire time when this pandemic was going, based on the condition of the athletes we've been seeing. So there is that to kind of be aware of, but Krakorov, I think it has the goods here. So I feel pretty confident, but those odds suck. Yeah, those odds suck. Yeah, I don't think this will be the opener, but maybe it will. Maybe they want to get people's eyes on the YouTube feed early, as opposed to this next fight here, which not a lot I'm going to have to say. I already kind of said the women's fights on this card are less than impressive, including the co-main event, if I'm being real honest. But this fight here, Chiara Penko versus Katarina Dalzida. Balzita is 30 years old, taking on the 25-year-old Italian. We got Germany versus Italy, two camps I've never heard of. There's $0 of my money going down on this fight. So I'll say that right off the bat. I researched it as much as I could, but both these fighters coming off of losses. Katarina Tigris fighting out MMA Speed 5-2, 5'3", 63-inch reach, coming off a loss to a 3-0 Danny Nealon in National Fighting Championship back in July of this year. She has fought 3 times in 2021. She fought twice in 2020 and fought twice in 2019. Only has lost by decisions in her career. Also has won all but one of her fights by decision, had an arm triangle as well. Combined opponents record of her wins was 4 and 4 for all of 5 of her wins. That is the total accumulated record. She's lost to 2 undefeated fighters, both by decision. So 3 times in 2021, definitely pretty impressive that she's about to fight for 4 times. So very active. Beastie Barbie, Chiara Penko wins the nickname battle here. Fighting out Rendoki Dojo in Livorno, Italy, 5'4", slightly more reach, has fought at 115 most of her career. This fight is taking place at 115 as well. She's lost 3 of her last 4. Got rear naked choked back around the same time in July with Octagons. So she has fought with Octagon and Bellator, where she's gotten some of her losses. So better, bigger stage for sure. Also lost to Danny Nealon. So this is the Danny Nealon survivor fight, I guess.
Out there with Cheyenne Buys as well.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, it's just very, very, very odd. But her last opponent, 10-3, Magdala Soramova. I recognize that name. I'm not sure if I've researched Magdalena with some other fighters, but 13 fights, 10-3. That's pretty impressive record. She was put away in that fight though, but it was a good fight. Yeah, this is a real who the fuck knows. I'm gonna go with the Beastie Barbie here, just based on higher stage, higher experience, a little bit longer of a reach, and just I think has faced a better level of competition, but they're pretty similar, honestly. And like neither of them have had success over which. So, and yeah, what up, Bunny? Good to see you here. But yeah, I'll take the Italian Chiara. Why not?
I'll take the German.
Who did you pick?
Reason.
Huh?
For no other reason than a roll of the dice, I'll take the German.
All right, cool. We got a disagreement. You got the German Katarina Dalazita, minus 116 favorite, a minus 105 underdog.
I don't like how she's losing, being finished like that a couple of times, you know.
Yeah,
she goes decision. It's just going to be it's going to be the full distance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's going to be a 15-minute fight. I mean, there's only been one loss that Chiara was finished in. It was by a fighter with 13 fights who could probably be in the UFC. But yeah, it's probably going to go 15 minutes. I would make your steak or your food during this fight because you're gonna have plenty of time. Yep, everybody being nice in the comments. Gotta love that, Ms. Bunny and everybody. Love to see it. But yeah, that's all we gotta say about that one. We're gonna move on to the next fight here. This is at featherweight. I'm super pumped about this one. Fabricari Diatta, definite prospect, 24-year-old Frenchman here taking on Nathan Rose, the Englishman out of Croydon, South London. In the UK. Not sure how old he is. 7'3", 5'11", 72.5 reach against a 5'9", 70.5-inch reach for the DNA Fighter Academy representative. So slight size advantage here for Nathan the Black Rose. I'll be breaking him down first. The Lions Pride MMA product is 7-3. I believe late 20s, if I remember correctly, from watching his fight with Harry Hardwick. I believe he was around 27 during that fight. That was in November of 2019. Really good fight with him. Very close. Yeah, it was a majority decision. Harry Hardwick, I believe, had quite a bit of the crowd on his side. I think he was just a little more of the local favorite in that one. Before that, Luke Ord defeated him by decision, 7-2-1 opponent. Both those in 2019. Had a first-round finish of Rajit Baria to start out his career in Bellator over in Newcastle. 2 of his 3 fights with Bellator have been over in England. I believe that 223. Oh, all 3 of them actually have been over there. So he has fought on 3 England cards. This is going to be 4 cards in the UK so far. This is his 4th. Before that, was in Bama, had good success over there. Pretty solid overall fighter. No real weaknesses. He was finished by a Darce one time. Fights a pretty good pace. Fought next to no competition, though, honestly, until he got over to Bellator. So far in the Bellator, beat a 3-0 opponent and lost to his other 2. Harry Hardwick is okay. Luke Ord, I'm not as familiar with. Fabricari looks to be the goods here, 7-0 for the 24-year-old. Featherweight here, 7 straight wins. He's just looked really good. Dominic Wooding, that was a good fight, honestly. Dominic actually took the first round and was able to see a lot of Fabricari's adjustments here. And his ability to come back from some adversity, which you like to see because it's going to happen at some point. Fabricari is just very, very steady, really just a well-rounded guy. He looks to be getting better. It's good takedowns, good stand-up. I just think that Dominic Wooding and Nathan Rose, they look like nearly identical opponents. I think this is going to be a pretty similar type of ordeal, honestly. I think Nathan Rose is going to come out, put the pressure on early. The thing with Fabricari is he's a little bit of a methodical starter, you could say. So I think it is the chance to kind of get him early if you're Nathan. Otherwise, as this fight goes after the 3-4 minute mark, I think it becomes Fabricari's all day. I would think that Fabricari ends up just taking another decision here, but I could also see him looking to get a finish after a decision in his debut. But yeah, I just think Fabricari is just a legitimate prospect for France. I think he can be a future contender as he moves up if they move him up properly. So tough fight for Nathan Rose.
Yeah, what you got to remember as well is these French fighters, because they don't do MMA events in France, all the French fighters tend to fight in England. So England is not an away team, if you know what I mean. Yep. They come to England, it's the home crowd for them as well. There's a lot of French fans there. You've got like people like Morgan Charrier, who's headlining Cage Warriors on Friday, and he gets a home crowd there. Half the crowd there to see Morgan. Half of them Irish, half all when there's a main event. And I think Dominic Wooding is better than Nathan Rose. I think that the record's deceiving. He's a very, very good striker, especially for the record. And I agree with you, Fabricari is an all-rounder. And that's the advantage he has over Nathan Rose and Wooding and people like this. I think he can go wherever, whereas I think Rose can only, at the moment, strike, essentially. And he's trying to avoid the ground and the cage, whereas Fabricari can deal with it. He can do the trips. He can grind you. He can push the pace and wear you down and take the second and third if you do go explosive in the first, like Dominic Wooding did. So I agree. I think this is kind of a coming out party for Fabricari. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, Fabricari, if he does get the finish, I think the submission is what I like here as well. Fabricari right now, a minus 300, 3-1 favorite. I think it's parlayable personally, because I don't see what Nathan Rose is bringing that Fabricari didn't kind of deal with in his last fight. But Fabricari had some dicey moments against Wooding. It was by no means a clear 29-28 win for him. He could have went to Wooding, honestly, pretty easily. So, if Fabricari kind of repeats those errors, Nathan Rose definitely can take a big upset here. But I'm going to say Fabricari. I'd like him as a parlayable piece early on this card. Good 145 fight here, though. And we'll move on to another Nathan and Nathan Jones. taking on Jack Grant, one of my favorites of Cage Warriors. Jack Grant's just been around for quite a while with Cage Warriors. I've watched a lot of his fights. 29 years old now, for the 6'1", 170er out of Grimsby, Lincolnshire, England. Lincolnshire. Whatever. Yeah, so
that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why you're here. Exactly. Nathan Jones, his opponent, Mr. Bag and Tag, best nickname on the card. Congratulations to Nathan Jones. Not the best record at 13-10, but 17-7. I mean, neither one of these records. These are MMA records. Nathan Jones, though, 13-10. I'll be breaking down first here. 6 foot tall, weighed in at 170.5 for his last welterweight bout. 13-10 overall, as I said, fought with Cage Warriors in his last appearance back in March of 2020. Lost it to 8-1 Dave Bear by decision. Prior to that, was on a 2-fight win streak, beating Brad Wheeler and Martine Harris, both with Cage Warriors, 1 armbar and 1 decision. Lost by rear naked choke to Ross Houston. Lost to Ali Santalati. Never heard of him. Adam Proctor, very good prospect, obviously. Alex Lahore, also good prospect. Definitely has not shied away from tough opponents. Lost to Peter Quelly as well. I mean, he faces tough opponents for sure. He does not beat many of them, however. That he takes these steps up and seems to lose these guys and gets finished quite a bit by them as well. Got guillotine choked by Muhammad Ali in his debut. Got rear naked choked. He got a few decisions in there. Got knocked out. Another rear naked choke. Another rear naked choke. Appears there is a little bit of a weakness in the jiu-jitsu game. Jack Grant, very, very strong jiu-jitsu player for sure. Very tall as well. He'll be the taller guy in this bout as well at 6'1", 17-7 for Jack Grant. 29 years old. Is coming off of a loss in a very good fight with Ian Gary. Ian Gary ended up getting a UFC contract off that and is fighting this weekend, actually. We'll be breaking down his fight tomorrow, so we'll see there. But, yeah, I remember I was very excited to take Jack Grant in that fight. I thought that, the experience was going to be the difference, and Ian Gary just way too physical for Jack Grant. It was just I do think that is what Jack Grant's going to come across in Bellator, not necessarily in this fight, though, but I think as he kind of advances in the Bellator welterweight division, I just think that the physicality and athleticism is going to be what gets in Jack Grant's way as he's making his way to the top. So I don't think it comes up here. He's alternated wins and losses his last few. It was a split decision against Agi Sadari. Good fight. I do think Agi did win, but I didn't think that was like a blowout by any means. Mounted guillotine and anaconda choke in his last 2 wins. So, yeah, again, Jai Herbert knocked him out. UFC opponent Ian Gary, now in the UFC. Had a very good win against Perry Goodwin, Perry Goodwin's lost a lot of fights, but the knees that he was able to land and how he was able to beat Perry was very impressive. I kind of see a similar type of thing here. I think that Nathan Jones is going to have a lot of trouble with the reach and the striking, and if he does kind of get frustrated, I think he gets in there and gets taken down and submitted. So it's either I like Jack Grant a lot in this fight. I think that they want Jack Grant to win a few fights. I think he's very marketable for the European Bellator scene, and getting signed off of a loss with Cage Warriors is pretty telling, I think. And it was a 5-round fight in his last fight, so I got Jack Grant here.
You got Jack Grant. First off, I would say Nathan Jones does not have a bad ground game at all. He's got an extremely heavy top game, and
right.
I know that from a few things. One, he beat Brad Wheeler.
Yep.
Brad Wheeler's the coach of my gym.
Okay.
Brad is a boss on the mat. He's a full clip brown belt.
Yeah.
And in that fight, I know for a fact Brad did not come in shape. It was at Colchester. I think you can look that back because I was there. It was really good. And I was obviously cheering for Brad, and it didn't go his way, but he didn't come in the best mindset and the best shape, and he still took Nathan to a 3-round decision, basically scrambling on the floor in rear naked choke positions, back and forth. Now, Jack Grant is the back taker. So you are 100% correct. In his ground game is way better. It is way better, and it proves it with his record. He chokes black belts, and that's the point.
Mm-hmm.
If it goes to the ground and he's on his ass, though, I have Nathan. He can hold him there. Nathan is thick. He hasn't got the reach, and he is smaller, but he is thick and he's heavy, and he uses hip pressure so well. But the speed, the agility, everything about Jack Grant and the experience now with going 5 rounds with someone like Ian Gary, who, as you said, is so physical and pushes the pace and is like the new dynamic strike. You're going to see him successfully participate in the UFC now. He's not going to just be a 3-fight and done and come back to Cage Warriors. He's not going to be a Nick Dolby or soon to be Darren Till, as you would say. He's going to be there for the long haul. Ian Gary is going to be the new Paddy Pimblett. They're that kind of caliber. So losing to him is no bad thing on your record for Jack here. And that was for a title. That was for a title. Right. So, and that was part of a tournament where he had won the previous. So I also have Jack winning this, but I do think it's going to be a test for him because I think Nathan is a very physical man. And even though the record isn't like the best on paper, that's 23 fights. That's a lot of experience. So he's not out of the
23 versus 24.
Do you know what I mean? So they've both got so many fights between them that it's an experience thing. And I think you're right. Bellator want to market Grant here. You know, he goes by Skinny Power, and I know he's absolutely jacked 24/7. The dude is just a freak body-wise.
Yeah, I mean, if Nathan Jones is able to out-physical him, then Bellator has their answer too. So I think this is pretty purposeful matchmaking that if a guy like Nate Jones can just hold you down for 3 rounds, they don't want to invest in the Jack Grant business then anyways. So he's a 5-1 favorite.
It could easily happen.
He's a 5-1 favorite, minus 500 here for Jack Grant, minus 550 I'm seeing. He's been in Cage Warriors a ton. There's a ton of exposure to them. The name Jack Grant's been getting floated around that Contender Series kind of circle for the last few years, and Nathan Jones' name hasn't at all. You're going to see them square off, and the price is probably going to be up to minus 800. So,
and a good way to think of it is Jack Grant. If he beat Ian Gary, he would be in the UFC right now, not Ian Gary.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and that's it because he's marketable and he is skillful. And he's got.
I think I'm pretty sure Ian Gary's a favorite this weekend as well.
Yeah, I think he is. You're right.
I mean, it's definitely So, but again, I mean, the thing with Grant is the physicality, the strength is the issue with him. So, if Jones can make that a factor, we might have a live dog. We might have a live dog. Yeah, but I'm going to go with Jack Grant here. I'm going to put Jack Grant with Fabricari and Krakarov to start off with a triple to get me to positive money there. But yeah, that is at 170. Moving on to the next fight here. This is at 155 pounds, a lightweight between Charlie Leary and Benjamin Brander. This is an interesting one. I think this one's one of the tougher ones to call on the card. Honestly, 38 versus 34. Benjamin Brander. El Skeleto is what he goes by, fighting out of Zurich, Switzerland, 13-8. That is a salty record there for the 360 martial arts representative on a 1-fight win streak. Last fought in September of this year, getting a win there over Greg Shestakov, I should say. Decision there at Time to Shine for. That was in September, just earlier this month. Coming right back, I had a really close fight with Arda Ardis. It was a split decision. Definitely could have went either way. I kind of had it towards Benjamin when I watched it. The fight with Mert Ozled Dream, the 9-1 opponent, decision there with GMC, a fight night. All 3 of those coming in 2021. So he's gone 2-1, 2 decision wins, 1 split decision loss. Got rear naked choked in Bellator against Chris Bungard. 14-5 opponent, not a bad guy at all. Has been toe hold, has been rear naked choked. Lost a decision to Rafael Diaz, who's not a bad opponent at all. A lot of losses here to tough opponents. Nad Niramani choked him out with Cage Warriors with a rear naked choke. Hussein Ashkabov, a 13-0 opponent. I mean, he's been around since 2012. Has been finished quite a bit, particularly by submissions. But yeah, he's a tough guy, tough veteran, and he's taking on a tough guy and a tough veteran with a tough record, 17-11-1 in Charlie Leary. Charlie Leary busting a lot of people's parlays against Kiefer Crosby in his last fight with Bellator Euro Series 9 last October. Got the stoppage at the end of round 1. He basically wrote the book on how to beat Kiefer Crosby, survived the first 2 minutes, and then lay volume on Kiefer and he'll melt. And that's what Charlie Leary did. Before that, Charlie Leary had a super close, really good fight with Tim Wild, who will be breaking down. He also beat Chris Bungard, lost to Paul Redmond. All of these are decisions, though. They just are very close fights. The Tom Green fight, Charlie Leary looked really good in, but Tom Green looked terrible, even with the 12-2 record. He looked really bad. Abdul Kareem Al-Sawadi, we've broken down a few times, not bad. Lost to Otman Azatar, who hits like a brick. I mean, it's just like, this guy's been all over the place. He's been around for a long time. I think this is just two very well-rounded veterans here. I think most likely it goes all 15 minutes. I just think that, it's tough. Benjamin Brander wasn't able to find a lot of tape on him. Did find an interview where he talked about how during the pandemic, gyms were basically closed for 6 months to a year. So he really couldn't train at all. I'm back and forth on this one. I'm tempted to take the underdog in Brander because I know Charlie Leary has a ton of hype coming off of that performance against Kiefer Crosby. I just think it could go either way. I'm pretty much passing on this one all the way around. I think these are very high-level veteran guys who are very well-rounded. Charlie Leary's faced a slightly better level of opponent for sure, and I think he's going to be a little bit bigger. So that probably ends up being the difference here, but Charlie Leary's 38, almost 39 years old. He had one round against Kiefer Crosby that was good, and their common opponent he beat in Chris Bungard. But I could see Brander coming in here and just kind of snatching up a decision also. I think it's pretty close. I think it's going to be, a 29-28 type of one. So I'll take Benjamin Brander just for my official pick. I might wait until the price is a little bit steeper to bet him, though.
I agree, to be honest. Yeah. I would bet the dog on this as well. I would bet Benjamin because I think Charlie can gas. I think that's what the age does to him. But the home field advantage is a big thing as well. A lot of Ukrainians and Russians don't like fighting in the UK at all because we have very similar fans.
He's Swiss. The other guy is Swiss. Brander's Swiss.
Yeah, but he fights in Ukraine, doesn't he?
Right. Yeah, he does. That is. Yeah. A fair point.
Yeah, that was all. Yeah. But we're just common fans is what I mean. We can be very vile to someone that isn't from these shores.
And Charlie Leary, Mr. 917, he's gonna have everybody on his back.
He really will. He's the one. People. Not a lot of people come for the first fight. The crowd's never sold out during the first fight, but you better believe there'll be some extra bodies in there for Charlie Leary in the UK, especially for hardcore fans. So Charlie could easily stop him, but I'm gonna go with an upset as well. I think Benjamin's got it. Decision.
Yep. Yeah, and Leary nearly a 2-1 favorite, minus 198, plus 160 on Brander. I do think money will continue to come in on Leary. I think that they'll see the YouTube video of the Kiefer Crosby fight. It's just the home field, everything. I do think that the odds will continue to lean towards Leary, but I'll go with Brander. So we continue to agree. I thought that might have been a disagreement there, but it's all good. And it's the fifth fight of the night. I think Bellator knows what they're doing here. Kind of lend the fans file in for these first few. Although they should be there from the jump because 4 of these first 5 fights have real prospects on them. Next fight, not going to be one I have a ton to say about again. 125 flyweight female fight between Alina Kalianado versus Petra Kostakova. Czech versus Greece. 22-year-old versus a nearly 40-year-old Czech in Petra Kostakova, the 4-3 fighter. I'll be breaking down first here. I don't know. I don't know what to really say here, Bellator. I'm not sure what you're trying to do. But we got 4-3, nearly 40-year-old Czech woman I'll be breaking down here for a moment. 5'6", 66-inch reach out of BT Jim Prahara in Czech Republic on a 1-fight win streak. So she got over the 500 mark against the 5-3 Valdina Yatsurakaya. She knocked her out in the first round. That was in March of 2019. She was supposed to fight in July of 2021. Her opponent tested positive for COVID with IAF Fight Night. Now she's been signed on to Bellator. So she was preparing for a fight. She's lost her last two to very good German opponents in Denise Kuhlholz and Mandy Baum. Mandy Baum did not look great in her UFC debut, but still a very good fighter there. Denise Kuhlholz was in Bellator, so this will be Petra's return to Bellator. Denise Kuhlholz was just too fast. Petra really didn't have much that she showed in that fight other than toughness, aka didn't have much to show when someone is tough. Decision wins in all of her wins except for her most recent, which was a knockout with punches. She's pretty average striker with regards to defense. Decent pop on her punches. Alina Kalianodo, the Greece fighter, 7'4", 22 years old, fighting out of Pitbull Prevesa. 2-fight losing streak for this opponent, Alina, both with Bellator. She lost to Beck Rawlings in 2020. I'm picking the other person, period. Like,
I mean, that's, yeah. If you lose to Beck Rawlings.
I'm not talking shit about Bellator. I am doing a Bellator breakdown right now, Bunny.
It's hard to side with someone that has lost to Beck. But do you go with youth or age here? Do you go with, because the other lady?
I'm going with, the power is the last thing to go. I'm going with Petra.
She's got less experience. She's not got the greatest record. It's a complete coin flip, this one. I'll go with Alina then, just to be different to you then.
So according to the odds, Alina is a -260 favorite. She's coming.
You must have seen something against the Bellator in Beck.
You know what? I'm Ben Petra. I have a rule with low-level female MMA. You bet the over plus 200 dog, and you will make money by the end of the year. I'm putting down a small wager on Petra. Let's get the knockout, Petra. 40-year-old Czech. Let's go. Beat the 22-year-old Greek, who's lost to Bruna Ellis, who's also not good, and then lost to Beck Rawling in 2020. Beck Rawling. Like, you got to be kidding me. Yeah. I got to go with Petra here. I will not be betting a lot on that fight, but it is what it is. So, yeah, we gotta break down all the fights here. Sometimes Bellator goes back to their old habits. We all go back to our old habits at times. So it's okay. No judgment here, Bellator, but do better. Do better than Petra Kastakova versus Alina Kalianidone or whatever that is. Next fight here, 155. This is a weird fight. This is a really, really weird fight. I'm not exactly sure which side to lean on here, but this is a weird one. Kane Musa, probably a fighter you have some experience with over in the UK. I feel like he's fought a few high-profile fights between guys like DKC and whatnot, taking on guy who I'll call him Davey Gallen, but he's the guy who Rolling Thundered Ross Pearson. That's who that is. So, like about a year or so ago, if everybody remembers the highlight of the Rolling Thunder on Ross Pearson for some random organization at 163 pounds, this is the guy who did it, Davey Gallen. Who
front flip kick, yeah,
he just front flip kicked right, and it was like during the whole fight they were talking about how Ross Pearson's seen everything, and there's nothing you can do to Ross Pearson he hasn't seen. So like it's just like Davey was. Each round, Davey tried a different weird, like crazy technique, and they weren't working. Like he tried a spinning back fist in the first round that actually got Ross Pearson to turn into a wrestler for a second, and then Davey like judo through him and was just like on top of Ross Pearson the whole round. Second round, he tried like a triple flying knee, not a double. Like it was like he like kept and missed it. And then the third round, he tried the Rolling Thunder and it hit. So props to Davy Gallen, 18-7-2 for the Frenchman, taking on the 13-3 Manchester top team product in Kane Musa. Both guys are 5'8". I think that Davy Gallen actually is 5'8". I think Kane Musa is about 5'6". It appears.
He's quite a short fella.
Yeah, he's tiny. He's a tiny little powerhouse, and they said these guys are the same height, but I think Davy Gallen's going to be a little bit taller, maybe not bigger or stronger though, because Kane is kind of a little bowling ball. But Davy Gallen, 32 years old, 18-7-2, 2 straight wins for the Frenchman, known as a judoka fighter, as well as having the crazy strikes. One with MTK, that was the promotion that he beat Ross Pearson with. That was in November of 2019. Was supposed to face Kane Musa back at Bellator London. It got canceled. Then he was supposed to fight Brian Hui last October, and COVID again. So COVID's been the enemy of Davy Gallen so far, trying to get into Bellator. 2 straight wins by knockouts, though. His losses coming to 2 guys with pretty good experience, a 10-5 and a 20-8 opponent. Got knocked out once, but decision in his last loss there. Has faced Jason Poney, but it was a draw. Faced Mikhail Libo. Kind of went through a little bit of a rough period there, but was facing high-level opponents maybe a little bit too soon. And back in 2014, 2015, went on a little bit of a run. Davy's very, very solid everywhere. He's a good, well-rounded fighter, honestly. And, it's just his fight with Ross Pearson, it's just hard to really judge what a win over Ross Pearson meant, even in 2019 at that point. Ross Pearson was 20-16, had been finished several times. And, yeah, it's just
had been kind
of tough. Hold on. And let me just real quick, I'll just answer it. So, not a big Bellator fan. Love all MMA, but hard to catch Bellator unless you got Showtime, but want to show that. Appreciate it. The UFC show is going to be on Thursday this week, Justin. I'm on the road, so we're going to do Thursday this week, but eventually we'll be back to Wednesdays. So I'll try to get it more consistent. But yeah, we'll be Thursday this week. So no Bellator or no UFC show tonight. But yeah, Davy, he's pretty solid. Definitely seems to be getting more comfortable with his kind of striking as he's gotten more of a kind of a hold on his, on his overall techniques. I think his judo is kind of where he rests in kind of his comfort. So he's really willing to kind of get into a clinch, get into a grapple a lot, slow this fight down. But I also think he's got, capable striking. I think that he's got to be the one who's keeping this at distance. That's how you beat Kane Musa. And often Kane Musa fights split decisions. He wins some, he loses some. But he fights a lot of split decisions or gets knockouts, Kane Musa. And it's because he's figuring out that distance, because he is the shorter reach fighter in just about all of his fights. Usually he's able to kind of crash the distance, I think, and solve that. That's why he's 13-3. But with a judoka and Davy Gallen, you can't really do that. Ross Pearson tried to do that, ended up getting taken down, and Davy Gallen's very capable on top of staying there for the whole time once it's there. I think that this is a tricky fight for Kane. I think Kane's coming into this fight with a ton of hype, for sure, because that's just what Kane does. But yeah, 13-3, Kane Musa. I'll just go into real quick here. The danger, definitely a very dangerous opponent, for sure. Coming off a win back in October of 2020, so he has fought more recently by about a year. And again, it was a split decision. This was not a split decision, though. If you watch this fight, I don't know how it was a split decision for Boti. I really don't. I think Boti kind of won the first round, but I think that Kane took it after the first round pretty handily. But again, with the style that Kane fights with, you'll see a ton of split decisions, but to guys like Robert Woodford, who we'll be talking about shortly, Alex Unland, who's been doing really good with Cage Fury. He did get knocked out by Dia Casey. That's the only time he's lost by anything other than a split decision. But yeah, I mean, good power here for the most part. Doesn't look to grapple. He does kind of look to crash the distance. I think he could crash the distance and end up getting judo thrown at some point in this fight by Davi. But yeah, I'm actually, leaning towards Davi here, just ever so slightly. But I don't know how he's going to look after nearly 2 years off, coming off of a Rolling Thunder win. He might come into this fight and have learned the complete wrong lessons from the Ross Pearson fight and kind of eliminated the reach and made some silly moves. And Kane might just cruise here. And I might really be like, what am I thinking? But I'm going to lean ever so slightly towards Davi. I like the judo as a counter to the short reach power striker in Kane.
That is it. It's if he can close the distance and land those heavy shots like he does, it's going to be a long night for Davi or a quick night in that sense.
Yep.
But again, if he swings and misses and Davi just Taitoshis into the floor, he's going to hold him there. But same way he hold Pearson down, because that's what they do. That is what a judoka does.
Right.
It might not be entertaining, but he'll do it. But I do see Kane hitting him. He gets hit a lot, Davi, and I think Kane can finish him pretty quickly in this. I think he's got a good gas tank for 3 rounds. I think any more, and you wouldn't fancy him.
Right.
But no, I fancy Kane again for this one.
Okay.
Personally. Heavy shots inside.
This is our first disagreement. So, Kane is a 2-1 favorite, a little over 2-1 favorite. Minus 225 favorite here for Kane. Davi coming off the Rolling Thunder, plus 180. Come on, guys. Go watch that YouTube highlight.
I wouldn't think too much about that as well, because Pearson was retired for multiple years going after that.
Yeah. And yes, Lewis fancies Kane.
Oh, yeah.
I fancy the other fighter in Davi. So, and thanks for taking care of the business there in the comments. We will be UFC tomorrow. I got family to spend time with tonight. Bunny's got family. Brian's making his family. And, it's just a whole family time here over on Aaron the Dog. To the featured prelim, which, again, there's no rhyme or reason with Bellator. There just isn't. Like, they don't think, like, we want this fight to be the featured prelim. It's just like Lewis Long versus Michael Dubois happens to be the featured prelim. For whatever reason, I'm not sure why. Lewis Long, I guess, is kind of exciting. I mean, I've liked what I've seen out of him, honestly. He's a tricky grappler, and he's a good fighter. I do like Lewis Long. He looks like a nice guy too. You gotta love that. But 18-6 versus the 11-7 of Switzerland firefighting at Phuket and Michael Dubois, Bad Boy versus the Foot. So we got a 32-year-old versus the 28-year-old. I will be breaking down the 28-year-old Michael Dubois first. 11-7 for the Tiger Muay Thai representative. I love Tiger Muay Thai. Always will. 5'10", 70-inch reach. 2 straight losses for the Tiger Muay Thai representative. Hasn't fought since December of 2019 with KSW. Lost to a 5-1 opponent in Marciej Krezachenko. Got knocked out by him in 24 seconds. Lost a majority decision to Lazurk Krakorski, 13-1 opponent. I'm just going to check him out. 13-1, now 14-1 for the Polish Terminator. This guy looks pretty good. So, not the worst loss, but he also hasn't fought since beating Michael Dubois. So, hard to tell what that means. As a win over Mert Ozlidriam, also, who we talked about a few fighters ago, also had a win over. He took his undefeated record with Nova by KO, has some punch finishes, has a lot of submissions as well in his career. He's been finished and submitted a few in all of his losses as well. It's kind of hard to tell. Hasn't fought a very well-known group of fighters with WBK for most of his career, as well as Kulin Fighting and Full Metal Dojo. Just haven't heard of these organizations.
I think
the
mostly name, though, Full Metal Dojo.
Yeah, these are definitely Asian organizations. I mean, other than Mert Ozlidriam, not a lot of notable wins here. I mean, has a lot of losses, including being submitted in several. Lewis Long, 18-6 for the Wales representative out of known as the Foot. Won his last fight out by knee bar over Gianni Amelino. That was a very good win there over the Italian fighter. He got spinning back fist by Oliver Enkamp in their fight, but it was a good fight up until then, and Oliver Enkamp has looked pretty good with Bellator, not hating on that. A loss to Robert Soldic, also not a bad loss at all, or Roberto Soldic, and Andre Stahl. He has been finished in all these fights, but these are very high-level fighters. Tommy McGuire submitted him as well as Paul Redman. So both these guys are kill or be killed for sure. They both get a lot of finishes and are finished quite a bit. I like Lewis Long, though. His grappling looked really outstanding in his last fight. Was supposed to take on Uros Jurzik. I do think this is a much better matchup for Lewis Long. Uros is an absolute beast of a. I believe he's a Czech fighter. Uros is, but yeah, I think Michael Dubois is just going to be overwhelmed with the grappling. So I like Lewis Long by another submission here. He's been grappling a lot on professional grappling circuit and translating over to fights as well.
I'm pretty sure Lewis Long is the fella. My buddy used to live in Cardiff in Wales.
Okay.
Said he came in every day and just strangled everybody, and that's all he does. And Lewis Long, his jiu-jitsu is brilliant to watch, isn't it? It's simple grappler v striker matchup, and in those circumstances, I always favor the grappler, always, because it's a lot easier if you can get someone to the ground. And if you do not know how to get back up, Lewis Long is going to absolutely strangle you. He's going to rip your throat out.
Yeah.
And I don't see any way that Michael Dubois can actually touch Lewis Long, because Lewis Long is not a bad striker either. He's got great distance to get it to that mat. And as you've seen, he can get into a knee, he can get your back, he can get your neck. You are not safe. Any limb is not safe with him. So a lot of people refrain from getting ankles and knees because you can easily get hit from them. Not hit. He will Imanai roll into them. He's got very Ryan Hall kind of flexibility to him. Yep. Very good grappler. So yeah, I think I'm agreeing with you again, but it's a smart pick, and Lewis Long by absolute strangulation here.
Yeah, I really think on the prelims, I really do think that kind of these heavier favorites, the Lewis Long, the Jack Grant, the Krakorov, and Diata, put those four in a parlay together. You're going to get plus money on it, and I just don't think there's too much of a stress there, honestly, for those. So I think that's a solid 4-piece to start out. If you just want to have the prelim parlay, it's my suggestion. Honestly, the Davey Gallen fight is definitely a gamble on my end, but I'm trusting the judoka to be the solution against the short range fighter here. But I might be feeling very stupid after that one. But does bring us to the main card now. And we start out at 155, a really good fight between Yves Landau. Yves, Lando, actually, is I believe how you say his name. His nickname is so I assume it's Lando. Taking on Tim Wilde. Tim Wilde, obviously a staple of Cage Warriors, staple of the UK, Bama scene, just in general. Tim Wilde's awesome. Gotta love him. Sucked how he debuted in Bellator, though. That was extremely disappointing for the experiment. 13-4 now. Is coming off a win after his last fight, so he has fought twice in Bellator now. Beat Charlie Leary, very good win. Had a Gogo Plata loss against Brent Primus in his debut. I just think he got way too comfortable in that rubber guard with Primus, because Primus really adjusted it for a long time before locking in that Gogo Plata. And Wilde wasn't even out. He just had to tap. Like he wasn't out. He put himself in a position he was way too comfortable in after taking down Primus. And so came back with that win over Charlie Leary. Kind of a typical Charlie Leary fight, really close, but Wilde was just a quicker, longer, better fighter in that fight and outstruck Leary, so that's very impressive. The Anthony Dizzy KO win was really good to go back and watch as well. Anthony Dizzy has gone over to PFL and not been ultra successful, but been very tough to be put away over there. And
competitive, at least, yeah.
Yeah, to put him away in the second round the way that Wild did, very impressive. Wild has some great striking, great finishes, some spinning hook kicks, spinning back fists. He's killer be killed for sure. Gets subbed or knocked out in all of his fights. We say that with quite a bit of the fighters on this card. So the Martin Delaney fight was awesome for how long it lasted, those 3 minutes as well. I mean, this guy just puts on really good fights, and I think he's got a very willing dance partner, pun intended, in Yves Landau. Yves Landau is like a b-boy dancer. First of all, he's going to dance for half of his walkout. But he came into that fight with Terry Brazier, and he looked awesome in that fight. I mean, Terry Brazier absolutely just looked like he was moving in cement compared to Yves. Yves looks so quick. His defense, though, not great. Yves' defense. It's backing up with his head up and hoping to get out of the way of the punches and not back up to the cage. And I do think that Wild is wily enough, smart enough to use his footwork, use his movement to eventually kind of manipulate the lack of defense from Yves into kind of backing straight into a straight shot from Wild. Wild's going to have a significant reach advantage. I think he's going to hit a little bit harder. The speed will be with Yves Landau because I think the speed's with Yves in most of his fights at this weight. But he does really back up with his head straight up to avoid shots. And Wild throws very straight shots at points. He will throw looping shots, but he throws a lot of straights as well. I think Wild ends up finding him at the end of one of his punches and knocking him out. So I got Tim Wild in this one.
You're saying the similar thing that I'm thinking right now, of just how crisp the striking is and how he will catch him with that. I'm always going to back Wild. As you say, he's a fan favorite here. You can't go against him. Similar to you, I do think he'll definitely outpoint him. That's the first. If he doesn't finish him, I do not see how Lando can outpoint him. I can't see a decision. It will be
He's going to have to catch another crazy knee.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So I think smart money is also Wild.
Yeah.
But you can't write Yves off. But my money is on Wild, and just for the crisp and sharpness of his striking and the volume he can throw at, I think he's smart money.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, but again with Lado, he's faced a decent level of opponent. He's been facing a lot of very good.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Brazier is a very good opponent,
He made Terry Brazier look so bad.
Yeah, Terry Brazier is really good. Really good.
And he really did make him look good. Let's see. Hold on. Justin, let's see. What are you saying, Justin? Your locks are Luke Trainer. So your locks are Luke Trainer, who's fought twice ever, and Venom Michael Page. Hate Page looking good. Lima wasted his prime. Should have been in. Okay. The UFC is not the only organization that there is. Lima is 32 years old?
He won $1 million with Bellator. I don't think it's way.
Yeah, but then Lima's 32 years old, and he's lost his last two to one of the best welterweights in the entire world in Asar Marov, and then he lost to Gegard Mousasi by decision. And we're saying that he's got it. Okay. Like, this is why I love betting on MMA, is takes like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. For sure, but if your lock is Michael Venom Page, good luck. That's all I gotta say. He might win, but that should not be your lock on this card. Like, that's not a lock at all. But Luke Trainer's fought 4 of his fights in 2 nights total. So, like, I don't think we know a whole lot about him. But either way, Venom Page fighting the same time. Venom, let there be carnage come out. Okay, that's solid thinking there, Mr. Villegas. You really do impress me with your takes sometimes. But we'll get to your boy Luke Trainer now. That's the next fight here. 205 taking on Yannick Bahati. Weird fight here at 205 for the. It's weird to be on the main card for sure. 4-0. Luke Trainer, 25 years old. He had 3 of those fights in one night. He did win all 3 of those and then another fight. So, I mean, he's fought twice ever. So, that's the thing we kind of don't know about here. Black Mamba, Yannick Bahati, has fought 14 times, 9-5, 31 years old. However, his last fight was a loss to Melvin Manhoef at 43 years old. Yeah, and Melvin Manhoef knocked him out. He took him down and knocked him out from guard. Melvin Manhoef was 43 years old when that fight happened. Before that, got a Kimura. His last few opponents have just 3 of his last 4 opponents have knocked him out, and 2 of them have been in the first round pretty quickly. The Mike Shipman fight I was able to watch as well, and in that fight, Mike Shipman just crowded him, battered him with shots until eventually catching him in the third. Bahati, he is tough. He's been knocked out a lot though. Luke Trainer, hasn't fought anybody yet, but he's looked very good. He's long, fast, seems to hit hard. But never seen him in a bad position though. I don't know. I'll take Luke Trainer, but I think that the price you're getting on this guy who's very, very green and not untested probably won't be worth it, but Luke Trainer should win this one, and he should knock him out again because that's what everybody seems to do when they beat Bahati.
There's a reason they paired Bahati with Trainer. That's my thought process. They're not trying to promote Bahati. They're trying to promote someone like Luke Trainer, young, obviously talented, because to win those fights in that amount of time. I think, again, if you're going with the promotional tool, it's quite a dangerous lead because we saw it from the other week where people who get promoted don't necessarily win when Big Tuna won. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you could easily just sway your vote based on, okay, why are they matchmaking that or overthink it? I think the experience in this doesn't really matter as he has been finished violently in the last 3, and especially to a guy that is not relevant at all anymore and old for fighting. It's not a great look. I think Luke Trainer, the speed, the strength, the technicality, and he's going to be hungry for these now. He wants to fight, and he's on Bellator. He's earned that shot with 3 wins in one night.
Yep.
I think, weirdly, I'm going to go with the guy who has no experience.
Yeah. When your last loss is either to Beck Rawlings or Melvin Manhoef, I'm going to have to pick the other person. It's just it's not great.
T-shirt, yeah.
Yeah, if you've lost to either one of these guys in this decade, then that's a problem. Luke Trainer looks to be the goods. He's 6'6" as well. Enormous, nearly, I believe, an 80-inch reach.
That is big.
Bahati also has fought, I believe, at 170 at points, 185. I don't think he's a pure 205er. Yeah, I think he will come in here and the first good shot he'll go down on. Honestly, that's my prediction and take the check. So yeah, we'll see. And Justin, just stick around for the main event. I have plenty to say to you about Lima, who apparently has been written off at 31 years old from a decision loss to 170 Khabib potentially and Asamarov. But whatever. To each their own. Next fight here. This is an odd fight. This whole main card is weird. I'll be honest. Other than the main event's cool. But Robert Woodford versus Andrew Fisher is the third from the top in 2021. We've got a 38-year-old versus a 36-year-old. Andrew Fisher is the younger fighter as the fighter coach here. It's been a while since. I don't know what fight I watched where Andrew Fisher was the younger fighter. I don't think it's happened in quite a while, but bringing Robert Woodford to the rescue at 38 years old, taking on the 36-year-old Andrew Fisher. Sunderland, England versus Glasgow, Scotland. 5'10", 69-inch out of the Team Fish Tank, Andrew Fisher. Team Fish Tank, that's a good name for your team, Andrew. He's also the head coach of Team Fish Tank. So just very interesting here that he's still fighting. He's looked pretty good in his last couple. Did take on Ashley Grimshaw with Bellator. That was just a really good fight.
Who is one of the coaches? Ashley Grimshaw is one of the coaches for Nathaniel Wood.
Okay, so it was coach versus coach there.
Teammates with Brad Pickett. That's who Ashley Grimshaw is.
Yeah.
He's very, very good grappler.
Yeah, and like that was a really good fight, honestly. Like they were very well matched up. Like it seems that with Andrew Fisher at this point, they're giving him kind of veterans. Woodford, a veteran, also. So I think it's kind of a similar type of fight here as the last one out. But look at his last 4 out. Akab Stepian, very good win there, albeit by a leg injury, but he landed a really good shot on him to end it. Nicholas Backstrom, that was a very good win. His only loss coming to Norman Park in his last 5. He did get knocked out by the GOAT Artem Lobov, but that was in 2015. So, he's been able to recover at least a little bit from that. But yeah, Fisher, he's just very fundamental, very good footwork, very good long jab. Doesn't always look to kind of get to the ground, looks to use more of his, his volume and his footwork to kind of control where the fight takes place at. Kind of had some up and down moments against Ashley Grimshaw. I thought Grimshaw was landing quite a bit of knees and other strikes that made Fisher look pretty hittable, to be honest with you. And I think that if he kind of has that same kind of stationary defense against Robert Woodford, Woodford should be able to take this one. Woodford has extremely good striking, kind of down the middle striking. The uppercuts I could see kind of piercing through that high guard that Fisher will have. I think Woodford at 38 years old is still the faster guy as well. So, I think that I like Fisher's kind of pace, but Grimshaw is not exactly a striker and looked like a striker in that fight. He did not have to rely on the grappling like I kind of expected going into that one. And this is just another guy at the similar type of career as Fisher, so it's similar to Grimshaw here. I just think Woodford has a little bit more left out of American Top Team, looking really good in his last 4. Had that win over Kane Musa by split. Had uppercut finished to defeat Sam Sicilia. And he was supposed to be fighting Saul Rogers before that fight got called off last year. So I do think it kind of says a little bit about the trajectory. I think at this point, Fisher's just still competing, and it's impressive that he's still competing. I think Woodford still believes he can contend. So while they are veterans, I think Woodford has more left in the tank and should take this one. I'm pretty confident on this one, honestly. I just think Woodford is faster, stronger, better here. So I'll take the finish for Woodford by KO.
Annoyingly, I agree.
Yep.
Yeah, I think Fisher does everything right. He doesn't do anything incredible. He does everything correctly. He is the pure fundamental fighter, and it's got him very far.
Yep.
But will it push him to over that edge? And especially, I know they're both old boys, but again, it says a lot that Woodford used to be in the UFC. He has progressed to that level, and when he's come out, he's won every fight since. So, as you say, he wouldn't have agreed to fight Saul Rogers if he didn't believe he could beat Saul Rogers. And Saul Rogers is the elite of Bellator. He's a top of the food chain for that.
And they want to set him up with Saul Rogers too.
Exactly. So
it's like they're setting up Andrew Fisher. You're looking at the level of guys Andrew Fisher's getting set up with, and it's Ashley Grimshaw, who's a very good fighter, but he's getting on now. He's quite old as well. Right. Exactly. He's being signed based on what he did in Cage Warriors throughout his career.
Exactly that. I can't do anything but agree with you, unfortunately. And because it hurts me to do that because I really do like Andrew Fisher.
I love him too, and I saw the price too, and I wanted to kind of change my tune a little bit, but I just think that Robert Woodford, he's the better because he is very fundamental, and I think a lot of his issues in the UFC had to do with outside of the cage, which he's been able to correct a lot. He had a lot of issues with alcoholism and some other issues that I think he's been able to correct, and he took off some time, so he's a much less weathered 38 than I think the 36 of Fisher potentially also.
100% agree.
Yeah. Minus 250 on Woodford. The odds pretty much agree with us. Plus 200 on Fisher. I think a lot of people are going to bet Fisher just based on, I think, seeing kind of how close this fight is. But Woodford really has looked good, but they both look good over the last 4. So I think it's a good one, but I just think Woodford is the better version of very similar fighters. There's a few fights on this card where they really did match these guys up very closely. I just think the power of Woodford is going to be the difference in this one, but we shall see. Fisher, is very, very sharp, very fundamental, and
I'm very
definitely
surprised that they didn't put fights like Nathan Jones and Jack Grant higher up, and Yves Landau and Tim Wild.
Yeah, now
why this fight is in the third fight? It doesn't make much sense, does it?
And why I talk about not making much sense, why is this fight the co-main event? Leah McCourt.
Again, I think for Leah McCourt, yeah.
Well, yeah, obviously it's for Leah McCourt versus Jessica Borga, the Black Widow versus the Curse, Leah McCourt. Leah McCourt, 29 years old now, out of SBG Charleston. She also has like our personal like Everlast fight team at this point. She's very well taken care of. That's for sure. Jessica Borga, out of champion 941, 5'7" versus 5'8", 69-inch reach for the two of them. She's 31 years old, fighting out of Lakeland. I do know that Jillian, the Savage Robertson, has been training with Jessica preparation for this fight. I don't know exactly. I think that helps Jillian probably a little bit more, if anything, because she's getting practice with that larger body. But Jessica Borga, her loss coming to Talita Nogueira back in April of this year by decision. It wasn't particularly close either. Talita just kind of dominated with the grappling. Talita was like a minus 300 favorite, and she kind of did what she needed to. Her wins against Lucy Bertaud and Amber Lebrac are very good wins, though. Lucy Bertaud is a very good French fighter, has gone over to the European scene, done really well. Amber Lebrac is a pretty large Australian fighter, not the best, but still not like terrible wins for Jessica Borga, honestly. And Talita Nogueira is a world-class Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, was not able to submit or just controlled her pretty much throughout the fight with her grappling. I expect the same thing out of Leah McCourt here. Leah McCourt has very good grappling as well, has developed her stand-up, but I just think that stand-up-wise is, a little bit closer between the two of these. Leah McCourt has won 5 straight, coming off that win against Janae Harding, where she was a little bit behind. Again, the striking is her kind of downfall so far. She took quite a few shots, but was able to snatch up that triangle on the way to the ground. And lock it in, one of the best submissions of the year. So, they want Leah McCourt to win. Leah McCourt, she's faced a decent level of competition. I think Jessica Borga is just another kind of fight for Leah to kind of grapple her way to a decision, possibly a submission later on. But I'll take Leah McCourt by decision.
Again, I don't see why it's this high up, but Leah McCourt has, she's marketable. She's got a good team behind her. She has got some skills, to be fair to her. She isn't, she's not a bad martial artist. I'm not saying that at all, but the point that this is a bad matchup for me. Whereas throughout the card, I think the matchmaking from Bellator normally is a bit one-sided. They're normally trying to do a boxing approach, which is promote one individual. This side seems like that. This is kind of a boxing matchmaking to me. So I don't know the odds for Borga, but I'd imagine they're not very good. You're going to get a lot of money odds. Borga, she wins. It's boxing odds.
Yeah, it's boxing odds. We got minus 650 on Leah McCourt, plus 430 on Jessica Borga, and there's no way I'm betting that. It's just you can't bet that. And now you're taking a gamble on: do you think Leah finishes or gets a decision to cut your money?
That's how she wins. It's not if she wins.
Yeah, exactly. And it's. I think it's why we have so many favorites throughout this card. It's a boxing kind of card with how it's set up here. I'm going to say Leah gets a decision. I think Jessica ends up surviving to the bell here. I think Talita Nogueira is maybe a better pure jiu-jitsu player than Leah McCourt, and Talita was not able to get the finish there. So, but it's not like confident that she won't finish. I'm just confident Leah McCourt wins, but that price plays it out of me playing it. So, it is what it is. Leah gets to win most likely though. So, we'll go on to the main event. This makes sense in its position. This should be the main event. I've seen a lot of love for MVP in the comments here so far. I've seen a lot of love for MVP in general. It seems that Douglas Lima is finished, but we're going to break down this fight anyways just to see if the 33-year-old is completely finished or not against the older 34-year-old who has already lost to him and Michael Venom Page. But again, Douglas Lima is done. Michael Page will be breaking down first here out of Hackney, England, 19-1, 34 years old, 6'3", 79-inch reach for basically the Anderson Silva of the UK at this point. 5 straight wins after that knockout against Lima in their last fight. The wins were after fighting 30-7 Douglas Lima, he went and fought 3-1 Richard Keeley.
That says everything about Bellator.
Yep. Then he fought Gianni Maliolo, who has less ground game than I have. And so that's great. Then he fought, do you remember this guy? Shinsho Anzai? He's a former UFC fighter. Do you remember that? The wolf, the Mongolian wolf?
I do remember.
Yeah, he's about 5'8", and he's a 155er who, like Venom Page, believe it or not, looked outstanding against. Imagine that. He then fought finally like a semi-legitimate opponent in Ross Houston.
In the most boring fight in the world.
The most boring fight ever. Didn't take one risk. Ross Houston was terrible in that fight as well. And just overall, it was like seeing the Paul Daly fight all over again. Horrible. Then Derek Anderson, very legitimate 155er. He broke his nose, but he's a 155er that came up to 170. Takes it. Derek Anderson's defense is to take as many punches to his face as possible and hope that you're tired afterwards. And his nose could not hold up to it. And now Lima's back. Now he's back to fighting Lima. I don't find that to be an impressive 5-fight run at all. I think he beat 155ers, some 145ers, and gets to boost up this record again. And I went back and watched the first Lima MVP fight. It's really an interesting fight, but when MVP has to attack, Lima was countering in there. And I think the way that MVP wins this fight is making it a very boring Ross Houston, Paul Daly type of event. When he rushes in, he gets caught. When he rushes in, he gets taken down by Lima. And I just think that he is aware of that. I think he is going to stay away from Lima most of the fight. That is how he wins this fight. At some point, though, I do think Lima can catch him, but can he catch him and finish him like the first time? I'm not sure. What I do believe, I think that this ends up getting to where it's a very close 5-round fight. I don't see either guy being able to hit that finishing blow, especially after the first fight. I do think that I think MVP is going to be very, very cautious for the whole fight. And then it's up to kind of Lima. Will Lima be more on the attack? Will Lima also be cautious? And then we have just 5 rounds of kind of by the end of it, did the judges prefer the guy moving forward, dominating the center, or did they prefer the movement and slight volume of MVP? That's how I see this fight going. I know everybody sees this as a banger. It's not exciting to predict. I think it's going to be a very boring, tough to predict decision where one fighter kind of wins 3 rounds, the other fighter wins 2. I know that's very anticlimactic, but I just think it's a very close decision to where both sides are going to be able to argue their fighter. You're going to have 2 to 4 takedowns from Lima, maybe. You're going to have 10 to 20 strike advantage from MVP, probably, but the harder strikes will be from Lima. The takedowns will be from Lima. The volume will be, and maybe the movement will be with MVP. So I get either side here. I'm going to take Lima just because I do think that he's going to be the one pushing the pace a little bit more. But yeah, we'll see. I can see either side. I think it's going to be 3 rounds of 2 type of fight either way. And the odds are very close for a reason. I think it's going to be a very close fight.
Yeah, Lima has a killer instinct to me that I'm not saying MVP doesn't have, but Lima doesn't have boring fights typically. If he's being too patient, his coaches will tell him, hit him. Whereas MVP, the 2 people that I would say he has gone up against the best, other than Douglas Lima, are Ross Houston, who is an up and comer, just come up from Cage Warriors, who had that bloody messy war with Nick Dolby, which was brilliant. I was live for that as well, and that was phenomenal. And the other one was Paul Daly, who's at the end of his tenure now.
And by no means as technical or well rounded as Lima, not even
close. Not even close. No. So what he's able to do with two of those, they're the elite to me of that of that kind of fighter. All the rest, not even close. What he's made, what he does is he neutralizes it and makes it so dull. He makes them so he puts the fear in them, which I do admire about him, because the style he does and the crazy shit he does, it does scare people off. It makes them tentative to perform, and it works. It's he's got a tomato can record, but some of those wins in there are legit and super impressive, especially the knee to Cyborg and the tornado kicks and all that sort of thing. They're the sort of things that I do admire about MVP. I do think he can outpoint Douglas Lima quite easily, actually, making it boring. But I don't think Lima's going to want that. I think Lima's going to take a couple risks to get this to the ground. I think the ground is where this is won, because you saw that first round of the first fight. MVP just sat there in guard. Didn't even make an attempt to get up.
And the thing is, such a huge amount of MVP's attack is taken away. That blitz attack, when he blitz attacked on Lima, Lima just ducked his head in and he was on the ground.
Double leg to the ground. Yeah.
It wasn't even a double leg. It was just like it
just fell into him almost.
Yeah, he just fell into him, and it was like, that was it. And I mean, so that blitzing karate attack of MVP is taken away. I mean, and again, once Lima started just committing to his shots and hitting MVP was reacting to the leg kicks. He was reacting to the shots. It was just like there's a physical difference in the two. Lima is a guy who can fight at 185. MVP is a guy who will never fight at 185.
No.
Like it's
but MVP is smart. He is smart.
Right.
As much as he's boring, and he's either really boring or he's really amazing. But he's only really amazing against people that are not his level, that he knows he can take the risks against, because he knows he's going to get touched. And that's where I have the problem with him. But I love watching him fight, and I'm going to go against you.
All right.
I made a video about this about 6 weeks ago, and there's a lot of hate on it, a lot of likes. It's completely 50-50, this fight, because you've got MVP fans, and you've got Lima fans, and you've got realists. People that really study MMA will bet Lima. They will. But I like to classify myself in that group, but I'm going to go the other way, because I know MVP has a talent for making stuff boring, to win, to get that record, and to say I won, to raise that Thanos glove. And I think that's what he's going to do. I think it's going to be a 5-round, 3-2, 4-1.
Yeah.
If he can stay off the ground, and I think he can. I think he's going to just run.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm just going to say the judges. I'm going to say the judges side with the forward pressure and the attempt to make it an MMA fight in Lima, but I think it's going to be a sweat. I really do. Minus 110 both ways, straight pick 'em. I think it's a pick 'em. Yeah, I think it's a pick 'em for a reason. I think there's going to be a ton of people who are excited about this fight who after say it was boring, who don't understand technical kind of combat, and I'm sorry for that.
It could easily be a Stephen Wonderboy Darren Till fight. This absolutely could be that.
Yeah, exactly. And then you're really leaving it up to the judges of who they prefer. And this is MVP in London. MVP probably getting the decision, not if it's close. Let's be honest.
And that's what I'm worried about as well. We know what, because a lot of London London judges come from boxing.
Yeah.
And English boxers you get so many decisions that clearly they didn't win, and they win. Because it's corrupted, and they do come over to MMA, and that corruption is there.
But I will say that all the benefits from this fight go to Lima. Like with regards to who is to gain from this fight more, it's Lima. I mean, Lima, if he gets another knockout, he gets that same bump he got from the first knockout, and then he gets to be a guy who's knocked out MVP twice, and no one else is. Yeah, but. Yeah, exactly. And Miz saying, people say Cyril Gane is boring. Cyril Gane is not boring. Yeah. And it's like after the Rosenstruck fight, everybody was saying he was boring. I was just like, he's going to be a champion. Cyril Gane is much better than MVP, which there's no shame in that. But like, Ciryl Gane is way better than MVP.
It's an intelligent style of fighting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't leave his chin exposed to get hit, so people don't admire it.
Yeah, but we've definitely seen, when he takes that step up, those risks that he can make against Shinzo Azori or, against a 3-1 Jeff Keelty, like those go out the window. But he's still winning these fights. So, I mean, like.
He hasn't gone to the ground in any of these fights either, though. You got to think of that. And that Douglas is going to go, all right, let's test your ground game. Let's test how you get up again.
Right. I think Douglas, I think the Limas at this point are sick of losing. They've been ridden off. I think they've lost probably 3 or 4 straight fights as a brother duo at this point between Douglas and Diego. So, like, Douglas.
Anyone writing off Lima is a nutter. You're crazy to write him off. You're crazy.
Yeah, and even if he loses this fight, it's not over at all. Like MVP is very good, and so this is a interesting main event. It just might not be the most entertaining by the time we watch it for some people. Entertainment's in the eye of the beholder, like beauty. But yeah, I mean, overall, we agree on a good amount of these fights. We got a couple disagreements, and one of the disagreements is the main event. So you can't really beat that. I'll take that. So, I'm definitely rooting for Lima as well, Miz. Justin, you're something. I'm not sure if you're a realist, Justin, but you're something for sure. Always appreciate everybody. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, apparently, Lewis, you're just a Dan Hardy ripoff hack.
I'll take that any day.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to do that. Dan Hardy and Tyron Woodley going at it this weekend, and where Tyron Woodley was like, "Go to the retirement home," and Dan Hardy's like, "We're the same age." Like he's like, "We're literally the same age." Like, but anyways, yeah, Justin. If you can't read, it says Lewis of Norton MMA. There, go give him a follow too. Give his YouTube channel a follow. But that's who
if you want. It's all good.
Yeah, he just watches Dan Hardy videos and reenacts them. So go give him a follow. That's all he does. Like, is he just watches the latest Dan Hardy and then he just says the same shit. Because
next video I got on my walk as well.
Yeah, exactly. He's going to talk all about Tyron Woodley. So yeah. It's going to be an interesting Saturday for sure. We got Bellator. We got UFC. Miz, we'll see you tomorrow for the Thursday breakdown show. It will just be Bunny and I tomorrow. Brian, at this point, can't focus on MMA. The baby's coming like any minute now. He's just like, I've got to kind of be available. I just don't have the focus. So it's going to be the Dog and Bunny show again tomorrow night. That's going to go off the hinges. Frankly, we need a third person between Bunny and I because otherwise it just turns into what it's going to turn into tomorrow. But we got the UFC tomorrow, double MMA Saturday because Bellator refuses to go back to Fridays for whatever reason. They're just like, no, dude, we can be on Saturdays too with college football in the States, which is, like Americans are watching that all day long. And now with the UFC, they just, whatever. Bellator's going to
mention Cage Warriors is on UFC Fight Pass on
Friday, we got Saturday. We got three days of Cage Warriors starting tomorrow. At 4 Eastern, 9 o'clock UK time, I believe, for the first Cage Warriors, but 3 straight nights of Cage Warriors. Check that out on.
And I'll be there on Friday.
Yeah, appreciate Justin. Always got to give you a hard time. You're welcome, Miz. You're a legend. And yeah, Dog and Bunny show tomorrow night at 8, around 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll put out a post and everything and let everybody know for sure. But Dog and Bunny show for the UFC tomorrow. Check out Lewis with Norton MMA on YouTube. All his fight reaction breakdowns, recaps to things as well. Or check him out on Instagram. But yeah, for the Aaron the Dog, for Lewis of Norton MMA. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all are legends. Peace out. All right.